those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen.
The Murder Hobo Show presents the Savage Rifter Podcast.
Oh, where are we?
Oh my god, there's a robot!
What?
It's
Run away!
running! I don't know what's happening.
Gosh, like we're falling through rifts in the time-space continuum.
Look out, we're in the middle of water!
There's only one way through this. Are you with me?
Yeah.
We must fight.
The Savage Rifter Podcast.
Welcome to the Savage Rifter Show, episode 24. I am one of your hosts, Gary, aka the Murder Hobo, and I am here with the latest and greatest, the Superheroes Master, the Wrestling Blaster, and the Riff Super Smasher. I don't know what any of that means. Welcome, Uncle Jay Razz.
Oh man, it's always a pleasure to be here on the Savage Rifter podcast with my main man, Gary the Murder Hobo McCallum. What's shaking, man?
I don't know, but you sound awfully excited to be here, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I drank some extra caffeine for the event tonight, so that way I'm good and wired, and so that way I won't fall asleep on you.
Huh, has it been a while since you've been allowed out of the house or something?
Yeah, actually it has been, man. They usually, for my birthday month, they usually try to keep me contained because if they let me loose on the streets of Nashville, in June, it's not what you want, man. It's bad news across the board.
Have you ever wanted to be an Elvis impersonator in Nashville?
There's actually, I've thought about it, but I don't think those guys do so well because you end up, after they get done doing the little Elvis thing, you see them like selling papers on the side of the road. So I don't think they're doing so hot here. It looks glamorous on the on the outside, but on the inside, I don't think it's such a hot gig.
So they end up eating peanut butter and banana sandwiches, but not by choice, right?
Right, yeah, just because they found it in the back of the dumpster behind the barbecue shack.
Oh, snap. All right. Well, this episode, we're going to do a little throwback. We've been through the Tommorow Legion Player's Guide, and this is something that I wanted to hit on because it's personal. Riffs Canada. We're gonna touch on this a little bit and see what it was like. Now, it should be noted that this is not canon. This is outside of the Savage World's Riffs, but with the new expansion coming out.
Well, that's the thing too, is they talked about it. I remember when you had the Shawns and the Robins on your previous podcast, they talked about where they wanted, it's a potential that they're going to start delving into more of these Palladium books down the road that Savage, that Savage Worlds is trying to offer. That it looks like what they're doing is like they're taking care of North America first, and then they're going to expand out to some of the other regions. But here's the thing, though: isn't your home country in North America?
Yeah, I live in. I guess my home country is. Yeah, shut up.
Yeah.
All right,
well, mine is too, man.
This is a podcast all about Savage Riffs. We're going to break down Savage Riffs piece by piece, so Uncle Jay Razz can teach me and you, the listener, how to play, enjoy, and understand riffs.
If you could go back to where you were in 1999, in fact, August of 1999 to be precise, Gary, what were you doing about then?
Well, let's see. That would have
20 years
put me.
ago.
I would have been 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I would have just been out of graduation. I would have actually been driving truck.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, 99. Wait a second. That puts me, I was born in 71, so that puts me in 18.
That
right?
puts you at 27.
What?
Yeah, it does. Puts
Man.
you at 27.
Nice,
Yeah,
horrible math skills, dude. I'm on my part. I'm talking to myself there. 27 years old.
27 years old.
Oh, man. In 2 years, I would have had my first kid, 2001.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I would have been married for 5 years. And by 95, I would have been out of school for 10 years. I would have been full-on working. Would have been driving trucks up and down the I-5 corridor down into Redmond, Washington, delivering bricks and lumber to the States. That's what I would have been doing.
Ah, that's awesome. 20 years ago, I was just an embryo. No, I'm just kidding. I'm only 2 years younger than you. No, I was. Yeah, I was. Let me think here. I've been out of the Army for like a little bit, and I started working in television. And actually, I started working in Nashville. In fact, 20 years ago, this month is when I first started working in Nashville, and I have not worked anywhere else. And it's been all right. And other than that, yeah, that's all the excitement that I've done in the past 20 years, other than read riffs and get into Savage Worlds, and that's all that really matters, I think.
That's all that matters. How's the weather down in Nashville? And when are you coming up to the Pacific Northwest, to the land of devastation and destruction?
Well, it turns out that I may be coming, looks like next year. I think that's what we're going to go ahead and relocate. Because apparently here, we just found out today that in the state of Tennessee that you cannot get married by an online ordained minister anymore. They just passed that law, so we're actually going to get married out of state and then come back and have the ceremony or whatever. But yeah, just another reason why we're going to be moving to the Pacific Northwest, or back to the Pacific Northwest. My home state is Washington. We're going to be moving back next year, and it's going to be pretty awesome. Probably just only a couple hours from you across the border there, Gary.
Mm-hmm. I'll be the guy standing on the north side of the border throwing rocks at you.
Yep, and I'll be the guy eating the cheeseburger on the other side, getting fatter.
I'll be the guy on the north side looking at you eating your cheeseburger, thinking to myself, man, that looks really good. I've spent a lot of time driving up and down the I-5, man, hitting the different truck stops, doing my thing. And I got to tell you, there is some food places down there. I went to this place in Bothell, Washington, where they served burritos that were the size of my frickin' forearm, dude. It was insane.
That's where my brother used to live, in Bothell. In fact, that's actually where we're going to in fact, we're looking in the Bothell area to relocate. And I think I know that place too. And your forearm isn't small. We're not talking about a baby's forearm. We're talking about a half ogre size forearm right there. So yeah, that's easily the size of like a dog's, back leg or something. It's pretty massive. So that's a big ass burrito there, Gary.
Well, it's weird. Like, it doesn't matter where you go in the States, like especially in Washington. Everywhere that you go, they serve you these gigantic portions. And I was just thinking to myself, man, they legalized marijuana in the state of Washington, and you can eat like a king for $5 at AM PM. You know what I'm saying, man? Yeah.
No, 20 years ago, who would have thought that? 20 years ago, when Kevin Simbita is writing those books about the glorious, our glorious neighbor to the north, who would have thought that? I don't know that marijuana be illegal in his country, let alone in some parts of the States too. Lots have changed in 20 years, I'd say. Quite a bit has changed. In fact, nothing from nothing, Riffs makes me, now that Riffs has been, I don't know, imported or whatever, or you say ported over like they do with video games, ported over to Savage Worlds, it's a lot more digestible, I can tell you that. It's, they really brought home the fast, furious, and fun with the Savage Worlds thing. And I never would have thought that either. I never would have thought we would have had a whole system for Riffs. I thought it was done.
There's a lot of interesting stuff, because we're going to go back in time. This book was written in 1999. So I would do the math on that, but we've already recognized how bad my math is. So we're not going to, even though I think that's like 20 years because it is 2019.
Right.
Sweet.
So, yeah, I just want to know how you went back in time to be younger than me. So that's pretty rocking. If you went back in time, and you became 18, I was like, geez, I want to jump in that portal that you're jumping in.
Nice. All right. Well, let's hit the Riffs Canada Poutine edition. We're going to start it off with a little bit of news from the Riffs. Pew,
wow,
pew, pew.
wow.
Ding, ding.
Hey there, Mr. Suit-wearing guy. Yes, that's me. Don't I know you from someplace before? Yeah, I do know you. What's new with you, man? Well, I suppose I can tell you what's new. From the Rifts.
What's new this week in Riffs community? This week, I got to change that, Uncle Jay, because it's not like we're getting weekly Riffs news, even though we got some stuff coming out. But it does sound like the Voice of Hope and Dustin Smith's Anything Can Happen segments are going to be on hold for now, which is a shame. But, man, life gets busy.
No, it sure does. I do know that there's been some people there on the Mewe, on the Savage Riffs, Mewe or Mewe, however you want to pronounce it, that on that community. And some people have actually kind of started picking up the slack for Dustin, since he's not going to be available to do the Anything Can Happen Tuesdays. And so that's kind of, that they're still holding down the fort in that respect. And in fact, you know what? I think you ought to contribute to an Anything Can Happen Thursday. Just what you ought to do, Gary, is just tell them about what happens usually there on your usual Thursdays, and you can make that into a riffs campaign or a riffs little adventure seed.
It's going to have to most likely involve fighting monster turds in the work bathroom. Is pretty much what my Anything Can Happen Thursdays. Well, actually, you know what? Come to think of it, no. Was it yesterday? It was a hot week, man, and I was not feeling good. It was Monday, come to think of it, and I was in a plastic bucket that was in direct sunlight, 40-some-odd degrees in the porta potty, and I was sweating. Monday was not a good day to me.
And 40 degrees for you Southerners, that's usually about, 80, 85 degrees or something like that for us Fahrenheit folks, or us non-metric guys.
It's something like that. I don't know. Bob and Doug McKenzie said you got to times it by 2 for a beer and add on a case or something like that. So
if it's 40 degrees up there, then that sounds like it's pretty hot, because freezing zero? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty warm, especially, and I'm not trying to tell tales out of school, but you're a bigger guy like me too, man. And, heat does not bode well for bigger folks.
I didn't like that I had to back into the porta potty, and then, you're like sticking to the sidewalls because you're as big as the bloody inside of the machine. Okay, moving on. The Pledge Manager PDF delivery shipping update stuff from Shane Hensley, update number 16, I think it was. Says, thanks for your patience. Here's the bad news right up front. We're going to be late. That's just a lot more, or there's just a lot more feedback coming in from proofers and playtesters than we thought. And given the experience that they had on the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, we want to manage that feedback better. So we're going to be waiting a little bit. I think they said something about popping it back maybe 2 months or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But at least when you get it, it's going to be like a solid piece of machinery when it comes out of the plant. So...
yeah, they want to give it time to play test it. And and to tell you the truth, I don't see anything wrong with that. I do know I don't know if that's the reason why we had a handful of revisions with, the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, after it gone through some different iterations, and they actually decided to give it a little more playtesting. And so I don't think playtesting hurts anything, man. It's just going to make sure that the, what they roll out is going to be perfectly vetted for all of us Savage Riffs fans.
Mm-hmm. I especially like it when they play test things. Here's the thing. When you're play testing something and you have like your little group of 10 or 12 people, your poll or what you're pulling from is a small limited group. But when you expose that to the bigger world where you've got like hundreds of thousands of people, you're going to find those 5 or 6, 7, 8, maybe 10, 15 people that are somehow like skirting the rules or seeing things that you don't see or that the majority of us don't see. Mm-hmm. So it's better for them to get it out and expose it to a bigger audience so that we can, have these crazy nut jobs find all the little quirky, quacky rules that are going to let them do some silly stuff. You know what I mean?
Right, and and that's the glorious thing about the internet. There's always going to be somebody on there that's got more time than you do that's going to do all of this stuff.
That's why I stopped playing MMOs. I have a job, man. Cannot compete.
No, when you got to set your alarm to play a video game, it's time to maybe find another hobby like cross stitch or something.
We were talking about Minecraft today, man. I'm telling you. Have you ever played Terraria? I know you're not a Minecraft guy. Have you played Terraria?
I don't know what that is. What is Terraria?
Do you remember Dig Dug back in the day?
Oh, yeah, of course, man. That game was great.
Imagine Dig Dug sort of ramped up 100 times. You play this little guy, and you can choose the size of your world. It's a side scroller. You can dig down into the dirt, and then you'll open up caverns and stuff like that. You'll find little treasure chests. You'll get better pickaxes and better armor, and then you'll find weapons, and things can happen. And then occasionally there's a boss guy. And if you build like houses by chopping down trees and stuff like that, you get people that will show up like they're like wandering salespeople that are wandering merchants, and you can attract them by building a room and putting up beds and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty, and it's just this cheesy little side scroller, but it's actually pretty cool. Anyways, I didn't come here to talk about Terraria, but we were talking about it today, and I got a hankering to play the stupid ass games. I got to install those things, man. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. Terraria, we got to play it together because you can play multiplayer. Okay. It's super fun.
Okay, all right, I'll check that out then. Terraria.
Third on the list, man. Riffs for Savage Worlds American Armageddon. Funded in 7 minutes and made a grand total of $230,387. That's like a butt ton of money for whatchamacallit. And the first riffs that Peg made came in at a whopping $438,076. Combined total $668,463 smackers that Riffs has made for Peg.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, I don't get why, and this is just me. I can only speak for myself, maybe a little bit for Gary, but I can say I don't know why people are not jumping on this bandwagon, my dude. Riffs is, I mean, it has everything you could possibly want. You know, who was it? Matt saying something funny that he said he wanted to play. We were just talking about like doing a Riffs campaign. He said, "Oh, can I play? What, a vegetative junkie that's made of Jello or something like that?" And I said, absolutely. If you're not doing that, you're not doing Riffs right, man.
I know that jackass was trying to make fun of my Gloop character.
It's still one of my favorites of all time. I'm not saying that to Brown Nose or whatever. Gloop was great.
He was a solid character. So it's pretty sweet that Riffs has made so much money, because if you compare it to the Adventure Edition pulled in a whopping $524,170. That is like $140,000 more Riffs has made than the actual Adventure Edition did. Isn't that insane?
When you combine all the books, man, I tell you. And let me ask you this: you've been on the Savage Worlds, you've been riding the Savage Worlds trolley for a while. Do you? I really think that Riffs brought a lot more players to the table. What do you know? The fact that they snatched this up, they snatched up the license, and they were able to do something cool with it. What do you think, Gary?
No, absolutely, noticeably more people are playing Riffs or playing Savage Worlds because of Riffs. Yeah, you know what I mean? There's so many people that are Riffs fans from way back in the day that didn't like, or maybe they didn't like the crunchiness of the system, or there was a certain thing about it that they weren't interested in. And then when they see it for played inside of Savage Worlds, which is, with your acing dice and the unexpectedness of the system, they were like, yeah, this, because Savage Worlds handles Riffs so well.
And that's the thing too. Not to get too off a topic here, but I mean, a lot of people kind of have this mindset that Riffs is just going to be a big, huge blow 'em up fest. And I tell you right now, and I ran Riffs for 6 months. I ran a long campaign for Riffs, and there was a lot more political nuance and we did a lot more social conflicts, and we did a lot more like political dramatic tasks than we did just like blowing up stuff in Riffs. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is you can make it however you want to. If you want to make this a political, Game of Thrones type, political intrigue, adventure, you totally can do that. Or if you want to just blow up some stuff, you can just do that too. 4d12 plus 4. What's that? That's the boom cannon damage. The boom gun damage.
Boom. I never read any of the old Riffs books, and so when it came out, it was like, I looked at it as like a universal system. Anything can come through these Riffs and allow you to play an adventure, sort of unlimited adventures. And you can have anything from kind of terrestrial. I don't know why I have testicle stuck in my brain right now, but I don't want to say that word. Terrestrial. Extra testicle was stuck in my melon there. Oh man, I need to get out more, I think. But yeah, that's the cool part about Riffs. And I also had misconceptions about Riffs, whereas like I thought everything was post-apocalyptic and there wasn't any cities, and it's just just a rampaging land of monsters and stuff like that. And it's not until I started getting into some of the ends, like the player's handbook goes over the classes and stuff like that. But Riffs Canada, reading this book really is an eye opener, because you realize there's full cities that are up and running with governments and the whole 9 yards, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that you go. I want to say this in contrast, because it's been a while since I've read like an original, Palladium Riffs book. Started reading some back in high school a little bit, and played a little bit of Palladium Riffs when I was in the Army back 20 plus odd years ago. The beautiful thing about the Palladium books is, number one, I just like the art has always been amazing. They've always just the hand-drawn art has always caught my eye. But if you sit there and read one of the old Palladium books, it reads like a travel log. It reads like, you get climate, you get population, you get, whatever you want to know about. It'll break down everything like that too. just flipping through here, and it talks about the city of Laszlo, which is Toronto for all intents and purposes. I think it is Toronto, or it might. I want to say it is. I mean, they flat out say that it's populated and it's a bustling community. It's not like this is Fallout where you got a town like a ramshackle town. Everything's kind of built with it looks like a shanty town with a bomb like. An undetonated bomb right there in the center of your town. It's not like that. I mean, you got bustling cities, you got metropolises, you got friggin' monorails, and you got. I mean, it's pretty sweet. So it's sort of like a cross between super futuristic and then you go about 300 miles west, and then it turns into Jankville or whatever. So.
That's the interesting part about it. When you start reading some of these books, it's like. When you go into these cities have everything. They have libraries, they have politicians, they anything that you want, And then as you sort of go outside, you get into some of the little janky areas that would be sort of more Falloutish or more post-apocalyptic. But
right.
even those guys, they still have like some form of communication. They still have shops. They still have like hotels, and these little places are making stuff. So, but back to the news. Let's talk about what's come out tonight, which is there is the revised playtest version of Rift's Tommorow Legion Player's Guide. It's now available. Yep. So this is the updated Suede version of Rifts.
This is, and I do want to tell you, it may have been cleared up by the time this hits the airwaves. There was a little brouhaha with downloading the link, but I think they've resolved it. And, just make sure if you're downloading it, make sure that when you actually put eyes on the cover of the book, that it actually says playtest on it. There was a little bit of confusion earlier that I think it was the deluxe version of the Tommorow Legion's Guide was posted, but now it's actually got the updated Suede version of it. And you can also tell if you thumb through the Tommorow Legion's Guide like I did, you can tell that as soon as you get into this one, you can tell the art's a little bit different and the layout's a little bit different. And I tell you what, they've done some things so far just in this preliminary document that I like a lot better than I did the original one.
Nice. All right. Well, let's quickly skim through this thing and see if we can point out some of the differences. Because out of the gate, you've got the table of contents and stepping into the Megaverse. So none of that has really changed. That's the Kevin C. and Beep, creator of Rifts, has written his little ode to Rifts and Savage Worlds. And then we've got the table of contents, which has changed a little bit. Just there's it says chapter 1 characters in the original, but just characters in the new one. So there's a couple of little changes and stuff like that. They've moved some pages around, which is pretty sweet.
What they've actually done, instead of lumped the iconic frameworks into these little categories, like you had the combat spec ones, where they call it the Masters of Mayhem or something like that, or the Masters of Magic. No, they just broke it down in alphabetical order. So the Burster comes first, then the combat cyborg, and it just goes down the line. So you're not going to, I got to skip to the magic section to see what the Techno Wizard does. No, you just go to the page. It's right there in alphabetical order now. So they made it a little bit easier for you to navigate. Something that really, really kind of, if we're allowed to jump a little ahead here a little bit, or no, just covering, looking at some of the characters, you can see too where they've broken down and they've really suaded it up, so to speak. But there's something that caught my eye just instantly, just thumbing through it, is the Altara, which are my favorite, one of my favorite, the blind Altara women, that are kind of, in the old books, they used to be smoking hot. Now they're kind of, they're probably still a little bit hot.
What page is this on? Huh?
No, if you go to page 56,
okay,
if you go to the Altara.
All right.
If you go to the Altara, in the previous version, they did not have psionic abilities, but now out of the gate, they start off with a psionic. So I'm like, and they start off with 3 powers already out of the gate. Just, empathy, arcane protection, and detect and conceal arcana. So man, all right, not only going to make these girls hard to hit, now they're going to make them hard to resist. With the empathy, dude, it's all over with.
Getting
it's
some.
All over. It's all over.
There's
blind and hot. What are you going to do?
Right? I think by the looks of it, they took out this page 10 that says making Rifts savage. Unless they've moved it somewhere else, it's not near the beginning. But one of the cool things that they did in the new one is you see they've moved character creation summary to before the chapter on creating your characters, which is kind of cool. So now you got a hit list of things that you got to pop through in order to create your characters, which is kind of cool. And then, then you get into it. The Burster and all the different crazies and Cyber Knights and stuff, everything seems to be in order. By the looks of it, they didn't really add anything into this. They just kind of changed all of the texts and stuff like that. And what else we got?
One of the stark differences that I see right out of the gate is they instead of there being a wall of text there in the gear section, it's actually listed out in the table. So now you can reference, okay, here's, here are some melee weapons. You got a vibro sword and you got a vibro, knife. You got a vibro or whatever, whatever it is. But yeah, it's actually in a table now instead of just having to scroll through a wall of text and saying, okay, what does the Huntsman light armor do? Okay, that's a 6, that's 6+ armor and toughness. No, there's a table right here and it tells you exactly what you're going to get. So you don't have to do a whole lot of scrounging. Like right here, it says classic body armor. You get your, you can go back and get your ancient, gladiator armor. You can get your, heavy plate crusader armor and all this other stuff. And then it even breaks it down. And this is what's pretty cool to me. It actually breaks it down by manufacturer. So you got classic body armor. Then you talk about Northern Gun. I should do commercials for Northern Gun. If you want to buy the best weapons anywhere this side of Rifts America, go to Northern Gun. See, how's that? I should have a job.
You're hired, man.
Thanks, man. You can do Triax. I'll do a Northern Gun. But but it breaks it down into the different manufacturers, and I think that's kind of cool. That's a cool little touch.
Yeah, it's weird that these colors don't seem to go with the rest of the book, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll fix that in later ones. Maybe they'll cinch that up a little bit because the colors, the old style colors of the classic body armor that they're talking about in the Northern Gun body, page 89, that the contrast is like stiff off, man. It is not easy to read. The old ones with the darker blues are a lot nicer looking than this, but it's cool that they've broken them down. This new player's guide is ripe with new art and stuff too, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it almost looks as if they've taken like the vibro close combat weapons, for example. It's now square, so it doesn't look like the old rounded edge stuffs, and it's a different color. It's like somebody cut and paste these charts from something else and put them right in here.
It almost looks like this can of Fresca that I'm drinking here right now.
No, it literally does, man. Yeah. But fortunately, this is a playtest sort of a version, right? This is a pre. Hopefully that'll get all sorted out because, that is completely off. But man,
it's a little jarring to look at when you go. There's a little discrepancy there. You go from like the dark gray to this almost like this really vibrant blue. And it is, I actually have my computer here in night mode, and it is still a little bit jarring just to kind of look at it just on the surface there. And maybe because your eyes aren't adjusted to it. And also too, I think I know what a lot of the problem is because this is white text. And reading white text, going from black text to white text will throw your equilibrium off a little bit too. At least it does mine. I don't, I can't speak for you, but I don't need to go,
Well, it looks like all the spells have been rewritten. You've got the extras and whatnot. You've got like the mega power modifiers are all in here, which is kind of cool. And here's another neat thing too: is these spells, they don't really seem to take up a lot of space. It's for whatever reason, it's like they didn't really go into a lot of detail. I guess they haven't in the other one either. They only take up a couple of pages, but there doesn't seem to be, for whatever reason, invisibility is still a couple of paragraphs. But yeah, everything looks a little bit different, which is kind of neat. They got some, this is all updated to Suede, man. That's nice.
It was pretty slick how they ended up doing that too, where they just made Mega Powers modifiers.
Yeah.
When I did my little at home conversion, that's kind of where I was going, but it's kind of smart that they just said, all right, these are just going to be modifiers. And there's, they switched a couple of powers around, to match what they have in Suede. But other than that, they really kind of streamlined it. Just the powers, though, that you're just getting the modifiers. You're not getting the whole list of, this is what teleportation does. This is what Bolt and, and their Onslaught does or whatever. Now, I do wonder, here's the main question that I was going to ask. I'll see, if you take a look, the new, they changed the narrative hook table, and you can tell that the art style is quite a bit different. It's like they didn't 100% match up what was already there. But I want to say that they completely revamped the narrative hook, which is kind of cool because that way, that was always kind of fun. But I'm just sitting here looking at it.
Yeah, you know what they did? They shrunk it down so the text is smaller and put it all on one page because it's a roll and it's a D20, so it's one page, one table, right? And if you look at it's 130, 131 in the old one, so I guess for whatever the way they edited it, but seriously, I don't know why they didn't change the colors or compare. Well,
it might have been one of those. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that too. I just it is nice to take a superficial look and seeing what's going on, what's rolling out here for us, and it's all pretty exciting, man. It makes me all this is doing right now is just thumbing through this. All this is doing is making me want the new books to come out sooner. I don't like where's my Blood and Banes, man. I want to. Yeah, where's Blood and Banes and where's Magic and Mysticism or Magic and Mysteries? I forget the other book.
Did they move all this stuff to the beginning? The Rift's Earth, is that where it went to?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. They took page 124, 125 Rift's Earth and moved it up to the introduction because the artwork is the same on page 6 as it's 125 in here.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense.
So some of that stuff has been moved around and then setting rules and ley lines and stuff like that. That's pretty sweet. It looks good. Yeah, it looks good.
No, I'm excited about the changes. I think they're really trying to do a good job of streamlining and putting all the information in one location. Because I mean, that's something that's a little drawback that I've heard about like reading a lot of Savage Worlds books is sometimes you have to jump around from one page to the other. But it looks like they've really tried to streamline this, and they try to say, okay, if you're going to go here to the armor section, you're going to get all the armor here. You don't need to go to the magic armor section. You don't need to go to the power armor section. All armor in one location.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah, that gives you guys something to look forward to. Skim through this book here and take a peek and see what they're going to be doing with the new. I like that they stayed with the same layout as the old one. The blues and the grays. That's nice. I'm glad that they stuck with that. That's appealing to me. It's sexually appealing, Uncle Jay.
Well, if you look at it, if you look at the other books that are coming out, if you just glance at what they've projected the covers to be, it looks like Arcana and Mysticism is going to have this nice little greenish sort of like Cthulhu, sort of hue to it. Blood and Banes is going to be like this sort of like bluish gray, sort of this weird like almost like this dark like coalition style. Sort of coloring, and Empire's Humanity is going to be like I see a lot of reds and oranges in there. So, and just like looking at the color schemes in there, and so maybe they're trying to change that color scheme by different book. I don't know. And I just hit my microphone.
Are going to be party. Yeah, I know you're a desk pounder and a microphone smasher, dude.
I am, man. I get excited. I have to hit my desk.
I'm serious about things.
Serious about playing riffs, man. I'm serious about getting into this. Man.
All right, cool. Well, that's that for the news. Let's get over to the Nexus points and start talking about Riffs Canada, my homeland.
Oh, Canada.
Wow. All right.
Oh man, they're gonna. So if I was singing for like at a Canucks game, if I was singing like "Oh Canada," would I get like Molson bottles thrown at me?
Snowballs.
Oh really? It's that bad.
Igloo squares and stuff from our homes.
Jeez. Now let me ask you this though: is you don't get a whole lot of Molson out there in Western Canada, right? That's mainly an Eastern Canada thing, isn't?
What is the one that is out here? No, we get Molson. We get all of that. Okay. We get Molson, Labatt's. Oh, man, I'm not a big drinker at all, but they just built a brand new factory out in Chilliwack, and I'm not sure if it's Labatt's or which one it is.
Man, I just want to go hang out in a place called Chilliwack.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's, home of the vagrants and bums. Sorry, Chilliwack, but not sorry.
No, that's awesome. So, Chilliwack, let me pull up Riffs Canada here.
Yeah, Chilliwack is like the Florida of British Columbia.
That's hilarious.
I saw Florida, a woman got arrested for being drunk on one of those little kids' plastic go-kart things, like the little Tonka Barbie doll. She was
right.
Got
Power
shittered.
Wheels or whatever.
Got shittered, hopped on one of those and went for a drive down the road and got a friggin' DUI. That's awesome.
That's not so much operating a motor vehicle as operating a battery powered vehicle. I don't know how you get it, but I don't know, man.
Wow.
I think you just rubber stamp DUIs in Florida. I think every third driver just gets pulled over and like, here you go, you're just getting one of these, pal, for your own good.
This is for you, mister. All right, well, let's get into some Riffs Canada, man, because like I said, this book is 20 years old, and it's kind of funny now because so this book was written in 1999. Mm-hmm. And it's funny when I started going through it and started reading some of it because of the way that it talks about, like, it says a bit of Riffs history, and then it'll go into, in the times before Riffs, Canada was the second largest country in North America, and then it's like in a 2087 consensus, which is what are we in? We're 20, so that's like 68 years from now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Canada essentially reverted back to the way that it was in 2000 because we don't have like 10 provinces anymore. We've broken down all of the Northwest Territories is now broken down into a bunch of different places. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think we have 35 million people in Canada the last time I checked. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what the population was, but you know what? If we can't make like 50, I think we might have 50 million people by now. We've got to in 2020. It's funny too, because I was doing my research, and when I get asked to do something, asked to pitch in, I try to do as much research as I can. And so I was sitting there taking a look at modern day demographics of Canada, and sure enough, yeah, we're right at, you guys are right at about 35 million people, and which is funny too, because that's California, you know. Yeah. You guys have you guys in like the biggest space possible. You guys like have it all up, above us, man. You guys have that weird little island looking thingy. What is it? Nunavut up there? Yep. Yeah, that crazy that nobody, like 8 people live up there. Nana's butt or something it's called. I don't know.
yeah, Nunavut or whatever. But yeah, that weird little northern island looking thing, which I thought was Greenland, but apparently Greenland's a little farther east than that. But it's as big a populated, big square mileage, biggest square or second biggest square mileage in North America, yet doesn't have as many people as California.
Trying to so these are estimated populations, but I guess I didn't want to go by. I wanted to check it out by states because I'm not actually going to find. So we got to go by states. We want to go top 10 states in America by population. Let's see what we got here. So you got California with 39 million. Texas has Texas is almost the size of Canada with 27. I thought there was a lot more people down in the States. New York only has 20 million, and Florida, those bums over on the far side have nothing better to do than hump and bump because they got like 20 million down there. Well, California.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like the population centers in the United States are pretty much relegated to California, New York, Florida, and Texas. Everywhere else is just what they call flyover stuff, so it doesn't really matter. Tennessee, I think, has a population. I'd say there's probably about like 8 to 9 million people in Tennessee. There may be a little bit more. I need to check, but then again, I'm not from here, so I don't really.
I saw a funny thing the other day where one of these newspapers in Florida, you know how Florida always has something to do with the swing vote? Like they always basically, Florida determines who the president's going to be kind of a thing. Yeah. And there was one of the newspapers in Florida put out a thing on the front page that says Florida casts vote for the next president or not casts vote. Florida supports for the next president kind of a thing. And then all it said was not Trump. So basically anybody but Trump is who Florida is going to back.
He's
piece of machine, piece of work, piece of thing.
No, just pull it up. Tennessee, the population of Tennessee is 6.77 million. So yeah, we're not even close to what Canada. There's probably about as many people in Toronto as there is in Tennessee. I don't know how big Toronto is. I'm going to assume that it's a pretty big place.
Could be. I don't know. But it's good to know that we're not humping like rabbits. We got 37 million people in 2019, and in 2087 we'll only have 51 million. So we've only gone up by, what is that? What is this, the frickin' math episode? 13, 14, 15 million all of a sudden?
Savage calculus.
And then it goes into pre-riffs was covered in over. It gives you the size. But this is the funny part. It's like the Trans-Canada Highway is X amount of roads, and then it talks about like major seaways and stuff like that. But you would think by like 2087, we would have some kind of like rails, not rail, but like super hyper light rail system that went across. You know what I mean? This is 50 years in the future. They're talking landing people on Mars by 2050, and here we are at 2087 in Canada. We still driving on the same freaking road.
Right. Driving a concrete truck.
Oh man.
No, I would imagine by then, I would imagine that probably the whole idea of like some sort of like high speed rail, it might have been taken off. It would make and the think of the landmass in Canada, it'd be easy just to throw like a friggin', throw a high speed rail from Toronto to Vancouver, or hell, from Quebec to Vancouver.
Yeah. If you've ever been out through Calgary, right across through like, I guess all the way across. Once you get over the Rocky Mountains, it's flat, man. This is one of the jokes in Canada is, what can you do in the prairies for an hour?
What's that?
Watch your dog run away. Oh man.
I'm cheese.
All right.
Yeah. No. So it's funny too, because I was sitting there taking a look at we're both taking a look at the Rift's history, and it flat out. And here's the thing that kills me: is it flat out says that the North American, Atlantic, and Pacific coastlines were decimated. New York City gone. Big Apple in the Atlantic. Yeah. Rhode Island's not, our smallest state, but it's about as big as like a big city. That's gone. Los Angeles, gone. Portland, gone. Vancouver Island, and all of Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, all gone. Dude, what happened to the Maritimes, man?
They're already going to be gone, because by 2087 with climate change, we're all going to be flooded anyway.
Right, all those guys in the trailer park out there in Nova Scotia just going to be floating around, whatever, floating on top.
It's funny because when you read the first little bit here too, Kevin goes on about how he would come to Canada all the time. He did a lot of his research and stuff like that in chapters. I believe he's from like the Detroit area or something like that. So he would just cross over. Yeah. And then when you start reading it,
right there.
You start reading it, it's like, yep, North America, basically both sides of North America just took it right into pooper. And then and then when you scroll down like to the next paragraph, it's like, well, even though Calgary didn't get sunk under the water and its entire population annihilated, it says that losing less than a third of its city and population. Oh, wait a second. Let me restart that. Sadly, Calgary losing less than a third of its city and population would be ravaged in the few short years to come by hordes of demons and monsters that poured out of the infamous Calgary rifts. So screw you, Calgary. We may be decimated, but you're still taking it into the pooper, buddy. And then it's like, you think that's funny, Edmonton? You could suck on it too, because you're going to get the demon onslaughts coming to get you, losers.
So that's essentially what happened is Alberta, bye-bye Oilers and bye-bye Flames, man. These guys are gone. It's now like, what is it, vampires and Frankensteins that are hanging out there now instead of hockey players.
So isn't there some kind of insects, the Zydekiks?
The Zydekiks.
Yeah.
The Zydekiks usually hang out in if you look at the map of Rift's North America, according to what Savage Worlds put out, the Zydekiks, they actually kick it in what we call Minnesota. So they're crawling and encroaching on, and I'm trying to, if I remember because I'm trying to do this without a map now. If I want to say correctly, I want to say that Saskatchewan is right above Minnesota, in terms of Canada. And so it looks like Saskatoon and Saskatchewan, they're pretty much the home for the Zydekiks, man. And the Zydekiks are nasty too, man. I don't know if you know a whole lot about them.
Yeah, so following the Great Cataclysm, the human survivors were left with nothing more than the clothes on their backs. Suck it, Canada. You can take that. They got what weapons and vehicles and goods they could salvage. So yeah, we got squad.
Okay, so it's Manitoba so it's Winnipeg. All right, so I got to remember that Saskatchewan is over Montana, and it's Manitoba that's over Minnesota. It's Winnipeg that's over there. And let me ask you this, Gary: is it Regina or is it Regina? It's Regina, isn't it?
It's the city that rhymes with how do they say that with fun?
So it's Regina.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's their little thing. The city that rhymes with fun.
Oh, that's cute. See, man, why would anybody want to blow up Canada, man? It's so polite.
Right?
Maybe that's what.
We're sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good place. But no, I just taking a look just so I didn't come across as more ignorant than I normally do. But yeah, Winnipeg is north of Winnipeg is north of Minnesota, and it's usually right around in there. It's that Winnipeg, Minnesota area where the Zydekiks hang out. And just from what I remember, I just want to say that from what I remember and from what I've gleaned through the Rift's lore over the years is there's some nasty ass monsters that hang out in Alberta.
Yeah.
From that Rift. And that's the thing too, man. I mean, not only is it the Zydekiks, I mean, there's some, I mean, they call it the Monster Kingdom of Canada, dude. The Monster Kingdom of Canada.
Wow.
That's insane to me. And here's the thing too, you kind of get an idea of of what they've been going through up that way. But what I'm curious about too is just, like what kind of new creatures are hanging out up that way? I mean, is it are they going to be like sort of already indigenous to the area? Are they going to be like Sasquatches and Yetis or stuff like that? Or are they going to be like or God knows what they're going to be? And that's what I want to delve a little bit into. So the beautiful thing too, I don't know how many of the original books that you've read back in the day is you usually get some sort of message from Aaron Tarn, who's mentioned in the Tommorow Legion guide for Savage Worlds as being like the chronicler of Savage Rifts and everything. So you're going to get a little piece of, you're going to get some input from Lady Tarn there. And then you're going to get some, like some post, here's what happens to, here's the government now, here's the situation that we're in now. But what's fascinating to me is like when it tells you about the book, when you go into Canada, what you can expect. And when you think about Canada, what's the first thing you think about? You think about it being cold as hell.
Mm-hmm. Igloos.
And, right? And it flat out, as soon as you start getting into Rifts Canada, it shows you like the domain of man, and it breaks down sort of the, I'm looking on page 23 of the Rifts Canada book here. If you look and see where it's at, yeah, man, those PEI and Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, those are just little drops floating in the ocean. Man, our beloved PNW is, man, it looks like it's been cratered out, dude.
So where is that? Because what it shows on here, I don't see any crater on. Basically, what I'm looking at is just like this is like a circa 2000 map of Canada before all of the Northwest Territories got split off into all of its different places and stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to. Well, hold on. No, I guess. Well, no, that's Vancouver Island right there. So that's all. No, it looks like Washington. Just from what I know of Washington's been like kind of like abbreviated some, but I want to say it's more pronounced. If you look in the Tommorow Legion's guide, or if you look in the Savage Rifts map, you can actually see where the Northwest, or what used to be British Columbia, which used to extend farther out than what's shown on the map there too. Looks like about a good third of it's gone.
Yeah, I should have pulled up that map and had a peek at that too, because, like I say, I can see Vancouver Island on this, and if the whole of it was like sunk, you wouldn't even see that island; it would be gone.
Nope.
I was expecting this map to show most of British Columbia gone, and maybe most of the other side. And
well, I bet you I can pull that up. I bet you I can.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, who is Mrs. Tarn? Erin Tarn is.
Yeah, Erin Tarn is the. She's sort of like the chronicler of Rifts. In fact, she's the one who. If you read the Tommorow Legion guide, she's the one who is sort of like works hand in hand with Lord Cope to establish the Tommorow Legion. And in fact, she's the one who's kind of like writing all the, writing the history and everything like that, just kind of chronicling like Rift's Earth as it is now. And so when in the books, from what I remember, is you would get like a passage from her in the early ones. And since this is the first like Palladium Rifts book that I've read in like a long time, it kind of came back to me. And I was like, oh yeah, you always, when you thumb through these, you always get some notes either from Lord Coke or Erin Tarn. And since Erin Tarn is sort of like an explorer, it's sort of like getting like sort of like play by play, of what's happening here in Rifts. She's telling you like, okay, here's what I see going on here. This blah blah blah. This is what happened after the fall of Tolkien. This is what happened here at Laszlo. All this other happy stuff. So she's sort of like she's breaking down the story for you.
Gotcha. D&D has Bolo, has some dude, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's the same thing. He basically goes into a place and, it's such and such's guide to whatever, and he's like the Aaron Tarn of D&D, where he rolls in there and checks the place out. So she's that person then. She writes about it. Now, this book is written from the perspective of being at about 100 PA, and Savage Rifts is actually 109 PA, right? So about 10 years after this.
Yep, it's actually in fact here, I pulled up while we were talking. I was sitting there. I pulled up the map, the one that they pulled out, the Savage Rifts, and you know what? It looks very similar to what we're going on there. It looks like Vancouver Island isn't sunk, but it's just pushed away from where it's at now.
It's been shoved off into the drink.
Well, yeah, and also I'm sitting here taking a look at it too. Like Washington, where Washington and Oregon, they kind of extended farther out, farther out into the Pacific. No, it kind of goes like this, kind of like cuts a big chunk into what's going on now.
So she talks about some stuff here. Some of my favorite tales are about giant killer beavers, mutants said to be as big as a man, warped by ley line energy, and patently untrue. Oh, what? Oh, man, I've seen some killer beavers in my life, just saying.
Yeah, ones that you're going to write home about too, I'm sure.
Man, if a beaver's coming at me that's as big as a person, I'm out.
Yeah, no, I'm done.
Adios.
Well, I mean, look, the first thing that tells you about it, as soon as you start wading into the book, it says the dangers of the cold. It is, man, and that's the thing too. People don't realize, man, frostbite's one thing, but hypothermia sets in, man, and all you're gonna do is just get tired, and you're just gonna go to sleep, and you're not even gonna realize it, man. You're just be like, I'm sitting here playing out in the snow, and the next thing you know, I'm so sleepy, and then you die. Hypothermia is something you don't really screw around with, man.
Don't sugarcoat it.
No, they really being in the army too, man. Being in the army and being stationed in Germany too, where we had to do a lot of cold weather training. They really, really hammer the fact that hypothermia is not anything to mess with. I go from being stationed in Arizona, which is the desert where you got to worry about heat stroke, to getting stationed in Germany, in northern, in middle of Germany, where the weather's pretty comparable to British Columbia. And I'm like, yeah, it gets freaking cold there. So they really drove that point home about hypothermia. And so is Kevin Simbita, man. He's telling you how to treat frostbite, snow blindness, and hypothermia if you happen to travel, in up into the Great White North. So
this entire section with the climates and stuff like that would be handled inside of Savage Worlds with their cold rules, which is pretty sweet. But it's neat to see that they are in here. When you're skimming back, it gives you an idea as to like the complexities that they were coming out with. You've got everything from, and this is a great read too, because you're looking at things like exhaustion and exposure. Now, when you're playing in Canada and it's being cold and you're in Rifts, man, it's like you might not think of that kind of stuff, right? So that's kind of cool. Mm-mm. The Canadian tundra, sort of, just being outside with the bugs and being wet, and hypothermia and cold water and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty dangerous to be outside.
Yeah, I don't know how. I from what I gather, and you can always correct me if I'm wrong too, that the climes are pretty similar to to Washington there, where you're at in British Columbia, where it doesn't get super, super cold, but when it does, man, it really kind of scares the crap out of everybody, because it's like, oh crap, we didn't see this coming, and we're kind of not prepared for it.
Yeah, it can get up to like minus 40 in some spots.
Yeah, well, didn't you say like over the past winter too, the one you just had? I mean, it got pretty cold and got pretty snowy up there, didn't it?
Well, where I live too, being right around Vancouver, it doesn't actually get that cold here. It might drop below zero overnight, which is freezing. But it's in the wintertime in Vancouver area, you're looking at between 0 and maybe 10 degrees on an average day. And last year we got down to minus 10 in a couple of spots, or maybe it was the year before.
Yeah, that's 10, 20 degrees, Fahrenheit here. And from what my brother still lives up in the Pacific Northwest. He lives right outside of Seattle. And he tells me as soon as as soon as there's some kind of ice or as soon as they get some kind of snow, the city shuts down because they're not really prepared for it because they don't ever expect it to get that super cold because they're right on the coast. But when it does, man, it throws everything for a loop. And that's sort of the impression that I would get that's sort of like going into Canada itself. That, okay, it doesn't seem like it's too bad, but next thing you know, something's going to hit you. Like, I don't know, like, snowstorm from the, it's one of those, cold, northers come in and, freeze your britches off, man. And then what are you going to do then?
Yeah, you'll be britcherless. You'll be britchless? Britchless is it?
Britches is Ginch in Tennessee speak.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you know what that is.
You get some frostbite on whatever your junk is called. Frostbite, right. Snow blindness, traveling in snow and ice, all things that you need to take into consideration when you're cruising across Canada. There can be some spots where you're like, there's deep snow. There's a lot of glaciers and stuff like that around too. And, I haven't left the lower mainland I shouldn't say that. I mean, I've been across Canada, I don't know how many times, but it's not like I'm some kind of mountaineer glacier hiking dude. But we had a guy works for the city out here that would just go off to it, hiking across glaciers and stuff like that. And just recently, man, just disappeared, just gone, fell down a crack somewhere, and that was it. Didn't see it coming.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it can be dangerous stuff, and it's not the kind of thing like if you're not an outdoorsy person that you think about. I'm throwing that in there too as a something to get in your way.
Man, you just like in the course of, I'm not even kidding you, in the course of in at the beginning of this chapter and just like in the 10, 11 pages that they go in and talk about the different type of hazards that you have to worry about in Canada, I just think about the different adventure seeds that you can plant, with Savage Worlds. As soon as you take these guys up, as soon as you guys take them across the border, man, just think of all the stuff they got to worry about. I would make my players roll vigor checks -2, all the time just to make sure that they didn't freeze their butt off, man, or to see if they did, I'm trying to think, vigor -2. I want to say that's at least a hard check right there. And I would say that kind of weather would warrant a hard check, wouldn't you? At least a hard difficulty, roll, for vigor, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If not worse, I'd like to stick it to my players, man. -4, suck it, losers.
So instead of a winter in Toronto, you're going to give a winter in Nunavut.
Right. I'm going to give them winter in Calgary, for Christ's sake.
Man, if they're going to Canada, man, you need to do it up. I mean, hell, if you come to Nashville, you're not going to, and you eat hot chicken, you're going to roll a -4 on that. So for vigor, if you can't take it.
Seems that Canada's kind of got blown to smithereens, but there is sort of like a bright light at the end of the tunnel. We've got a couple of places now that are here in one of these things that I was reading. So we've got the Ironheart, which is like somewhere in Sudbury, North Bay area. I was in a stripper bar called Fanny's in North Bay. The ex-coalition state of Free Quebec, of course, the Quebecians. Yeah, they couldn't sink those guys into a hole, could you?
Nah, man, they couldn't. I tell you what, man, those little beret wearing suckers, they couldn't subjugate them, man. They just sit there smoking their cigarettes, wearing their berets. You cannot capture us, coalition. We're going to make a bigger, better, glitter boy to take you out. All the glitter boys. They pretty much, from what I read too, man. You want to talk to a glitter boy pilot? They come from Quebec. It's nothing but glitter boys and freaking berets and poutine out that way.
Of course, the poutine's in there. So
I had to throw that in there.
Laszlo is the city of techno wizards, based right near Old Toronto. It says scores of reasonably modern outposts in small towns throughout the southern Ontario and Quebec. They're all clustered within a relatively close geographic proximity. So you got quite a bit of stuff happening out there. Now, Chi-Town, whatever that is like 3 places in the States somewhere, all sort of combined into one, isn't it? I can't remember what they are. Iowa.
It used to be Chicago. It used to be in Chicago. It was the remnants of Chicago, but it actually split out. It's Illinois, Iowa, and I want to say a little bit of Wisconsin. I think that's all kind of that's all Chi-Town now. At that point, that's all been relegated. And Tolkien was not too far from there either. And then, it's still going on about, the fall of Tolkien and everything. But What's interesting too is if you sit there and thumb about, like, and I'm still like Western Canada is mainly my frame of reference because where I used to live. But I start looking into Eastern Canada, and they start talking about free Quebec and everything like that too. But what's funny is, man, where Montreal is now, Quebec is pretty much like that lower half of Montreal, or lower half of Quebec is all like broken up in islands. Now Montreal is just a series of like little islands, Laval and a few other places too. So
in the Savage Rifts map.
Yep.
Yeah, there isn't much left of it, which is why I find it so weird, because these maps are like, this is what all of Canada looks like. There was no, even all this devastation, and you're talking about both coasts being wiped out. The map doesn't depict that, so to speak.
No, it looks like it just kind of shaves off some of the coast or whatever. It looks like it looks like some kid kind of like tried to trace trace around the United States and cut off like about, like cut off most of Florida or whatever. Good. But
wow.
You didn't hear me say that. You didn't hear me say that. I've never really, only been one spot in Florida that I claim.
Oh, man. Aaron Tarn says, I think the prevailing belief that all of Canada is a wilderness comes from three things. One arises from the fact that most of the greatest Canadian cities and population centers were obliterated during the Great Cataclysm. Yeah, I'd probably pretty much say they were. Quebec, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Windsor, and all the cities around them were decimated by the Great Cataclysm. And then it says, worse, the provinces of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and much of Newfoundland were completely wiped clean. Wow. So there is nothing left, man. It's all
the
down the
Maritimes
center.
Are gone, dude. Yeah, those trailer park boys, man, that live out there in Nova Scotia, man, they're gone. They're floating on their little trailer out there in the ocean.
What's weird too is, so it says, other than the three most famous cities, which is Laszlo, Ironheart, and Free Quebec, Canada is basically a vast wilderness. So there really isn't much to talk about. You've got the Zydekick, you've got the Demons in Calgary. Calgary is sort of, I guess it's a well written about place, but this there's not much on it. The Demons in that area, and then we've got three cities. So what is Laszlo? Laszlo is the city of techno wizards that is based in old Toronto. Now, I've heard from other people that were talking about it that is about the extent of what you get for the city of Laszlo. There has never really been a deep dive into the city of Laszlo. It's always sort of been like, okay, there's this city, it's this techno wizard city, and that's all there is to it. So what about Ironheart and Free Quebec? Now there's a full book on Quebec, isn't there? On Free Quebec?
Yep. Yeah, there apparently if you dig deeper into like Rift's lore, where they talked about the coalition was trying to subjugate, they at one point in time they did have the coalition, did have control, some sort of military control over Canada, and then after I think what happened with Tolkien, and after they decided to raid Tolkien and do what they did with that, the Quebecers or the Quebecois or the Quebeca, I forget how you say that.
Quebecois? The Quebec?
The Quebeca. No, they said they weren't having any of that, so they just broke off and they became their own nation. And here's the thing too, is the coalition can't do a whole lot with them because they're all glitter boys, man. When you work for, when you're Jean-Pierre Lafitte and you're sitting there cranking out poutine and like 10-foot tall robots, man, nobody's going to come screw with you. And that sort of thing is like coalition sort of like, okay, we're going to lay off Quebec right now, but we got our eye on you. But, they're really kind of shaking on their boots. They don't want to have anything to do with it, man. And here's the thing too, man, I never would have thought like a bunch of tough guys would come from Quebec, but I guess I was sorely mistaken.
Oh, those French are crazy, man. Are you kidding me?
They are, man. And that's the thing too. I grew up like my only impression of French Canadians were while I was watching wrestling as a kid, and they were all like mean lumberjacks who didn't have any teeth. So that's why I thought all French Canadians were like at that point. They all wore little flannel and didn't have teeth, and they all had like scars all over there. And they talk like this. That's what I thought French Canadians were. So that's actually I figured that if anybody outside of Canada, and don't take any offense to this, Gary, anybody who is going to withstand the brunt force of the coalition, it probably would be those Quebecers, man. It probably would be. They're a tough bunch, man.
So we've got speaking of tough bunches, we've got Tundra Rangers. Something along the lines of coming from the Royal Canadian Mounties of old is a possibility. What about Simvin monster riders that roam the plains of Saskatchewan and Alberta? Do you have any idea what those things are?
Oh yeah, man. These guys, if you know what a Simvin is, they talk about Simvin a little bit in the Tommorow Legion Player's Guide. These are the little fellas, and I say little fellas. They kind of look like I'd say they're very primate looking. These are the guys that kind of like have the jaws that like kind of extend a little bit, and they kind of look like monkey men almost. And they actually, what's cool about these guys is they actually have an accord. You know, they sort of like have this natural ability to communicate with animals, and so a lot of these guys ride. You know, the Simvan riders. They end up like riding these, you know, taking charge of these enormous beasts, like the Fury Beetle. That's just a big honking beetle. And when I say a big honking beetle, I'm not talking about the size of a cockroach. I'm talking about the size of, I don't know, like your truck that you haul concrete in.
Wow.
You know, they're enormous. And so that's what these guys do is they're sort of like herders and, you know, and like animal sheep herders and like riders and everything like that too. A few of them have, you know, if you look, a few of them have joined with the Tommorow Legion and they end up taking a lot of their big critters with them too. So that's, if you can only imagine that these guys are sitting there just like roaming the tundra on these big friggin' beetles and just, you know, and just other. In fact, I want you, if you don't mind, if you're able to, if you take a look at you'll get a kick out of this. Take a look at page 31 in the Rifts Canada book there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of, I don't know what that fella is, but no, that's not a Fury Beetle, but that's one of the other pack animals. But that's sort of similar to what they kind of look like, though, because they're just they're big riding animals that they carry and throw stuff on there.
The artwork is so awesome. If you look at the snout, where the snout's pointing at that dude, he looks like a little magician, like a thin Santa running away.
Right? Yeah, he's sitting there. It's like, come on, and you know you got the one guy in the front with the guns or whatever here. But essentially, what we're looking at here is this sort of like this triple horned, dual tusk like elephant looking thing. And I don't the cat. There's not really a caption for it. I'll have to look that up. But man, if I saw one of these, if I'm sitting here hanging out in the plains of Canada, minding my own business, you know, eating my chips and gravy or whatever, and I see this dude, you know, come walking by with a bunch of these little fellas on here. And this thing has a turret mounted on it. It has a friggin' gun turret mounted on it. Man, I'm hauling ass back to the States, dude. I'm not even fooling around with this.
Adios, I'm out of here. There's a cool section on wearing heavy armor. I wonder if you're wearing heavy armor, man, that's gotta not only bulk you down, but that's gotta make you cold more, you know, unless it was like environmental.
Yeah, that's what it's saying. So it can keep you warm or whatever. All of it's you know, you can burn out the environmental control system when it's you know, when you go into sub-zero temperatures. So if you're hanging out in that minus 40-degree weather or whatever for a prolonged period of times, like your comfy little environmental armor, the battery might burn out. So that's something you need to be cognizant of. Because man, just think of something happening. Just think of how you can do that in Savage Worlds. You're like, okay, I want you to make a vigor check, you know, to see if you're able to withstand this cold, and you crit fail. Oh man, guess what happened?
Yeah,
you're
hurting.
Yeah, your environmental control just burnt out. Now you're going to be rolling vigor checks like on the hour, if that, like probably every 10 minutes. You know, vigor check at -4 to see if your ass doesn't freeze.
Yeah.
No, that's deadly, dude.
Some notes concerning travel and riding animals. So you can get on a horse, you can ride a dog sled. That's actually pretty cool. Man, we got to do an adventure where we go like Arctic dog sledding across the way and then run into this big, yeah, man, Fury Beetles. An Ostrosaurus Silonaris. So maybe that's what this other two-legged dinosaur-like creature. Nope, that's not it. Wagon or coach, hover sled. And then, of course, the usual methods of magic travel and stuff like that. That's also very cool.
Yeah, you got your hover sleds, and you got your whatever you can travel on a ley line with, or whatever, or you can just fly if you have the fly power if you're a ley line.
What is this over here, man? Page 33, demon storms. This is another strange phenomenon that sometimes occurs in and around ley lines. A storm of demons, particularly at nexus junctions and places where dimensional disturbances are common. So there's a storm that happens with, there may be some wind and occasional flash of heat and lightning. So then what? Tiny pebbles, tiny mud balls, and they all turn into demons and devils and stuff?
Right, yeah. Usually sometimes you ever heard, you hear the story about sometimes where fish or frogs will start raining down on people, because, atmosphere, weirdness or whatever. No, instead of like you're driving around, instead of some hail drops on there, and you get like, I don't know, a demon fish that drops on you and wants to eat your face.
It's raining demons, man. That's when it's time to head back to America. I'm just saying.
You're pretty much about right. In fact, I'm sitting here looking at more of the demons, like what kind of demons will just appear. It tells you to roll a percentile die. Or you can get like Russian demons coming up here, and you get one called the Hell Horse. I don't want to fight a hell horse, Gary. That just doesn't sound fun to me. That sounds like that horse is pissed off.
He's got a bone to pick with you. This is
I hope not. I've heard about horse bones.
Yeah, this is cool because like just skimming through this, you've got flash floods, mudslides, lightning storms, coastal storms, all sorts of there's tornadoes, all sorts of environmental conditions that you could throw at your players while they're out screwing around doing their things.
No, it's just something. In fact, what I want to do here is I want to just sit here and kind of like mine this PDF for different environmental hazards and just write them down and different pitfalls and everything like that. And now just reading this makes me want to stage something in this area.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. Like that's what I love about looking at old stuff like this. Any material, it's good stuff when all of a sudden you're like, oh, I want to do this. I want to go run this adventure or do this thing. It
just makes me excited for the new books that are coming out, man. If this is if it's going to feature, if they're going to talk about the Tundra Rangers and it's going to talk about the Monster Kingdom of Calgary and just like the different locales, just kind of get me excited, like Mechanicsville and Laszlo and everything too. Laszlo, even though you don't get a whole big deep dive into Laszlo, you can just imagine like what kind of imagine like some kind of Harry Potter magical like techno wizardry stuff that you could do. I would imagine that Laszlo looks like Tron mixed with Harry Potter or some stuff. That's just me. Where it's got magic lights and stuff.
Why is there on page 36 winter sport skills like ice skating? what is downhill speed skating, cross country skiing, snowboarding, and jumping? So what is this for? What would this page be for?
This is simply a recreational skill that makes the character more or less competent on ice skates. So what I'm looking at here, pro hockey skating, is if you take a 50% to skating proficiency, you can essentially, it teaches you how to skate fight.
Yeah, here's the thing though, like you can only skate on lakes. When would you ever strap on skates to get around Canada? Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, maybe skis, maybe because you cross country ski, maybe they had something like that. But yeah, you'd have to be on a lake or some kind of like frozen surface. You'd have to strap on skis, and then let's be honest, the way that I see this happen, if there's going to be a fight on ice, it's going to turn out to be, what is it, figure skating competition or something anyway down the road. That's what's going to happen.
Well, if you're going to do something along those lines, why wouldn't you just like put them on a snowmobile and put guns on it and run a chase scene and you know what I mean? Just gun each other down with snowmobiles or something cool. Or like that old James Bond movie, probably not that old, but the one where he's going down the side of the mountain and he's on his little, he's on his skis and whatnot, and he takes out the guy in the snowmobile and he's riding that down, and then I think right at the end, doesn't he jump off the cliff or something like that and then parasail down into the valley and then ends up like shagging some broad in the ski chalet?
That's Goldeneye. That movie is actually 20 plus years old, so that actually
we're so old.
I know, but we look so good though.
Especially naked for the ladies. Just saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of hairy goodness coming over this microphone.
There's not a lot of hair on this end, but if you like bald men and extra skin, I'm your man. All right, Eastern Canada, free Quebec. This is a whole section on what is happening inside of Quebec, and it does say in here that they were somehow, these guys, there was a secret mass production of glitter boys inside of Quebec. So they have a veritable army of walking tanks with over 1,000 more expected from their German associates at Triax. So there's a full-on glitter boy army here. But then not much else is said about them.
No, because that's all you need to say, glitter boy army. And that's why the coalition's not going on there and, knocking them over on a daily basis.
So it's like there's free Quebec. Don't worry about it. Nothing going on there. Notable places in Eastern Canada. Mechanicsville. What is this place?
It's near the ruins of old Drummondville in Montreal. And so where it is, it's an infamous town that are run by operators, pretty much the mechanics of this game. And what they end up doing, it's pretty much just a series of garages where you come in there, and Mechanicsville, they take care of your stuff. So just imagine a town that's pretty much one big Jiffy Lube.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yep. And so they end up, you bring in all your stuff. In fact, it's like you go in there and you can get something to drink. It's just like a nice little like rest stop and a supply post for like mercenaries and all these guys that are just floating around, like woodsmen and explorers that are just kind of like bouncing around from either the Tommorow Legion or coalition soldiers. It's pretty much like just a rest area. But you go in there and you can go in there and get your stuff fixed, man, because there's a bunch of mechanics are like hanging out in there.
Nice.
I bet you can take a robot there and you can get it all all fixed out.
That's cool. It's got like notable places and stuff like that where you can go get your things done.
Yep, and it's got a body chop shop. Ooh. So if your cybernetics are getting a little bit rusty, you can go in there and get your stuff replaced.
This is something. It's actually fleshed out a little bit, man. We've got 15, 20 different buildings, 20, 30 different buildings. And
now, guess what else? We're also getting NPCs too. We're also, it talks about who. Yeah, we're talking about like here in Mechanicsville. The law is upheld by this dude named Mad Marv and his Fix-It Brigade, and he tells it goes on to say the dude is a crazy. That Mad Marv is a crazy protecting the city, and he's got free. Yeah, just read this is awesome. This is his town as far as least he's concerned, and he has free reign to do as he damn well pleases. He tries surprisingly hard to be fair and judicious, but will not hesitate to kill a man if he feels it necessary. I'm not messing with Mad Marv either, man.
Right?
Like, look at this. He's got, in addition to a personal armory of Northern Gun, and Tri-X weapons. And I'm not 100% sure what an Ultimax is, but I guarantee it's not going to be good. In fact, I'm going to have to look that up.
Check this out. Big Louis Smythe and Robert Drillbit Dubois. That's awesome.
Oh, so Big Louis is a Grackletooth. Grackletooths are pretty cool. I like those guys, man. They're just big friggin' aliens with the mouth. And Robert Drillbit Dubois he's a big old mining cyborg. So if you imagine it's just like Bender from Futurama going in there and just mining stuff. That's who you got. You got old Drillbit and Big Louie.
That's cool, man. So there's the law. There's the constable's office and the jail. You've got a general store, a mom's boarding house, which is like a hotel. Then you've got the Mechanicsville Hotel, the cellar. What is this? Oh, so this is like herbs and spices. There's a movie theater, the Shack. So this is a large mega damage capacity hangar on the opposite side of town. It's a popular flop house used by travelers and adventurers to get repairs made on their vehicles. So that's pretty sweet. You got the Shack's shower and resale. So you could sell stuff here.
Yep.
It's got vegetables. Yeah, wow, everything, man. Stables, the hospital, a casino, a pit. This really has like an auto duel feel to it all of a sudden.
I would almost like want to hang out here in Mechanicsville and like start some stuff.
Right? Yeah.
All right, so I'm sitting there, I'm glancing at just because Mechanicsville is pretty fleshed out. Just looking at the movie theater here that they talk about, it's got 2 separate theaters and it's got 1,000 people. It can seat up to 1,000 people, and it's got 10 movies that they show, but everybody just seems to love them. And those 10 movies happen to be like Terminator 1, Terminator 2, Lethal Weapon, The Magnificent Seven, Six String Samurai, Yojimbo, Lassie Come Home, and The Waterboy, and Arsenic and Old Lace. So there we go. So yeah, just a series of like random movies that you can watch. So if you're stuck there and you got 10 movies that you want to see over and over, you can go out there and check it out.
Nothing that hasn't already been out. Like this is supposed to be written. There isn't a single movie that survived from 2000 forward. Right? You got to watch the frickin' Waterboy. Oh my god!
And again.
So yeah, places around Mechanicsville. You've got the farm town of Providence, so that's not too far away. There's like another little area you could scoot off to. Beaver Trail, the Island Kingdom of Montreal, and Willisburg, plus a dozen or so independent homesteads. So it's like this is kind of a pretty fleshed out little area, which is kind of cool. Oh man, And then when you start going into it, they'll break that down. The island kingdoms. It shows you a couple of things that's there. So this little why did this area get fleshed out but not Laszlo? That is the weirdest thing, man.
I want to say that maybe because those are big important places that they probably warrant their own separate books, because it seems like that Simbita was going to write a book for just about everything. That he wasn't just going to leave it. And I want to say too, and like I don't know forgive me for being for not knowing for not doing my research here, but there's over 50 so like Rifts books, and I don't know all of them off the top of my head. And I want to say these important places like Laszlo, Free Quebec, get more coverage, where these places that aren't necessarily like huge cities are getting more of the coverage here in this book. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like Mechanic, but I tell you what, just reading Mechanicsville is I want to hang out in Mechanicsville, man. I would just because there's the one Savage Rift adventures like Murderthon or whatever. Mm-hmm. Man, I would just I'd just bring these guys. All right, we're gonna hang out in Mechanicsville for a while and see what happens. And like you got to go check a movie. You got to go watch Waterboy for the 400 times.
That's your torture. That's the cool part about that, right? Like, I mean, that's like a fully fleshed out little area that you could just rip right out of there and throw it into whatever you need. Page 49 talks about ley lines, and I noticed that he's actually got some ley lines like drawn on a page that covers sort of like Prince Edward Island. But in Savage Rifts, they basically, I think there's like not a percent chance, but you basically roll the dice, and depending on what you roll determines how far away a ley line is from any time that you get into a combat. As an optional way, instead of just the DM, generically saying, okay, there's one this far away, you can actually have your players roll for it. But I see that in this one, he's sort of got them pre-laid out where they're at, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, where I mean, and you can see him as far as him throwing out ley lines over the Maritimes and everything like that too. I mean, there's some that hover right directly over the ocean, so that's going to be hard to come by or whatever. But yeah, I that is kind of an interesting conceit there, where he just sort of like took the map and just drew some ley lines and said, okay, here are the ones that are here present in this area. Where in Savage Risk, where it's all on all dependent on the dice roll, which I kind of like, because sometimes you just want to tell your ley line wizard, or I'm channeling Victor here, your ley line walker or whatever. Sometimes you want to tell them like, no, there ain't a ley line right here. Sometimes you're gonna have to do with your 20 points of magic. Just chill. Right? I mean, you're not. No, yeah, that's what I like. No, there's not a ley line here. You're gonna be fine with your 20, with your 20 power points and your mega power spells. You might have to take a small rest, but you're not going to get an infinite, infinite magic like you did before.
So yeah, there's quite a few places. And now that we're sort of into central Canada, and is this where you would find Northern Gun and the Manitisk Imperium? Is that
right? So pronounce that word again. Manitisk. Is that how you pronounce it?
Manistique.
Manistique. Okay, I was trying to make sure that I pronounced that right. Manistique, yeah, all that, and Ishpeming and all that. Yeah, I want to say this is when we start anything over roughly the Michigan area. That's where Northern Gun and Manistique and Ishpeming and all that stuff is. All those big armories and whatnot.
Yeah, so it's funny that they don't get fleshed out, but they are like sort of a major kind of an area, right? So the Cartier Fury Ranch is located near the city of Old Catham. Here's another little area that gets fleshed out a bit. Members of the ranch, talks about those people, who they are, notable places. So the ranch is actually like a full-on deal here somewhere. Yep,
and we got NPCs listed out here. I think that's actually kind of neat too, that they're doing this. That they're just dropping, like, it's not so much you're not going to get like a big info dump on like Laszlo, but here's some stuff that you're going to get around it here. And I kind of wonder too if they purposely leave a lot of this stuff kind of like empty so you can fill it out yourself as a GM, or maybe they just haven't gotten around to it. I think it's more the latter. I think in that case. What do you think, Gary?
No, I agree. Usually that's why you would do that kind of stuff, right? You don't want to. Yeah. It has to do with canon. Like you don't want to start rewriting canon for major places like Laszlo and stuff like that. Where if you want to rewrite the canon for the Cartier Fury Ranch, which is a couple 100,000 people with a bunch of DBs and stuff like that, it's a little more flexible that way. Mm-hmm. But this Cartier Ranch is, again, just like Mechanicsville. It's quite fleshed out. So that's here's another spot that you can grab onto and throw into your Savage Rifts games. The Laszlo region. So the relic, what is the relic? Central and southern Canada was a population center of the old Canadian Empire. So this is another area, Trappers Cove, located near the ruins of Guelph. I think this is fleshed out a little bit. Mm-hmm. There's a meat shed in Trappers Cove. Did you know that?
There is a
smokehouse, a curing shed.
Hey, man, that's I mean, if you're going to be trapping a lot of beavers and everything like that too, you got to have a place to store all your beaver pelts and your beaver furs.
Trappers Cove. This is where you run the Bogman adventure, right outside of Trappers Cove.
Yes,
right.
The proto. Yes, you do. You run the proto-men of the bog right there. Because where else are they going to be, man? That's exactly where they need to
right
pop
near
up.
Trappers Cove. 33 residents seems about right. And just rewrite it and stuff it in there.
Man, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I really think that you ought to get that big noggin of yours working on like a big Rifts like adventure, and then let me join, because this is already, I'm already just getting stoked thinking about it, man. I'm thinking about just like, because seriously, I don't know how often you get a chance to like play an RPG in your own backyard.
Mm-hmm. That's why I wanted to do Rifts Canada. I wanted to check it out.
It's funny too. I can appreciate that, because when I was running Rifts myself, a lot of my campaigns were all Federation of Magic. I figured a coalition had been done before. Coalition, of course, is going to be the bad guys. So I wanted my the Federation of Magic be the main bad guys in my campaign, and that's all roughly in the area where I live in now. Actually, a little bit north of here, Kentucky and Missouri and Arkansas. And a little bit of Tennessee, that's the magic zone. And so I was like, all right, cool. I know this area a little bit too. So, but if you decide to do something in this realm, man, just imagine with all the knowledge that you have already, and it's just going to make you, just all this is going to do is just like really crack open your imagination and just let you and let it run wild.
Yeah, that's the cool part about it being North America. Like, if you're playing this and you're in North America, you don't have to go outside of your own backyard currently to, to get into some good stuff. There's a town here called Perez that is once near the city of Brampton, and there's supposed to be some tower there that's like some 30-story skyscraper that they've built an entire place around. Perez Productions, there's like some little low-budget film studio that's printed in there, and then again, you go into the notable places. They got a cinema, they got a dance club stuff going on there. Man, this is pretty sweet.
I'm not too mad at, like, I would have thought that in 105, PA, that everything, like, who would have thought they'd been watching movies or something? Right? I thought movies have been a thing of the past, man. I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna watch it. You got Shrek. Nah, Shrek probably they don't have that.
Well, when did Shrek come out? And they don't have anything
2001,
right? It was
2001. So right. Well, the good thing is they don't have also the new Star Wars or the prequels.
Oh, Jesus!
So they don't even mention that. So maybe that's a good thing.
I think that's what caused the apocalypse, right? Freaking prequels. Fowlerville is another place that's fleshed out in this one. And then you got Burlington, which is just a tiny little city. All these little places of notes and stuff. So yeah, you got quite a selection of places that you can pull from. And then there's some final notes about a few things, and then it's go ahead.
No, turn to page 71.
Yeah, the Hivelands, the Zydekiks.
Yep.
I don't even know how you say that. Zydekiks territory.
The Zydekiks, man, it's all Manitoba. That's what I thought. I knew it was roughly like right. I wasn't sure. I kept on thinking Saskatchewan was over Minnesota, but no, it's got one over. It's Manitoba. It's Winnipeg that's over that. But yeah, you pretty much Winnipeg and Manitoba and Minnesota, man. It's all Bug City there. And if you turn to page 72, you get a picture. You get to see a picture of what one looks like.
Nice.
And it's pretty.
Yeah, they look a little more intelligent than I thought they were. I thought they were just basically dumb bugs.
No, these guys are warriors, man. These guys are warriors, and they use tactics and they use weapons. Yeah, that's the thing. These are like super smart warrior bugs.
It's funny
and the queens
because
are nasty too.
I've run Garnet Town Gambit. Like when Rifts first came out, I ran it, and there's Zydekiks in that, and I don't know why I can't remember that they're actually smart. That sucks. My brain is like, you can tell by my math skills, it's putty.
I think you got concrete poisoning.
I must have something along those lines, right? What's happening up in the north? So you got the Tundra Rangers up north in that area up there. Is there towns and stuff going on up there? There's codes with the Tundra Rangers. What do they do? Oh, you got stats for the Tundra Rangers and shit too going on here.
Oh, yeah, it tells you exactly like how many, like what the ranger population is, and so they roughly say there's about 30,000 Tundra Rangers that are hanging out, and it's they also break down the mixture of what they are. Like they have a few. It says that they have a few juicers and crazies, and also too, if you remember, one of the big things that happened during the apocalypse is when the rift started opening in North America, the Native Americans came back. And so there's a lot more. There's a big Native American population again, where they wiped out before. Where I guess maybe, in fact, they talk about it in something that I read, that they left this dimension because they knew that the shit was going to get bad. And so after everything kind of like dissipated, they came back. And so now there's just a big bevy of Native Americans that are living in North America again. And so you're going to see, and so it looks like it says like, what is it? Like something like. Yeah, like 24% of these, 24% of the Tundra Rangers are Native Americans.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And you got some Simvan Monster Riders, which is pretty cool. Oh, I forgot about these guys, man. The Xion Centaurs, what they talked about, that the Centaurs are going to be featured in the new books, man. So that's doubly cool.
Ooh, sweet. I'm quickly skimming through it because we're at like an hour and a half already, and we've only touched half of Canada. But check out page 95. Huh?
Oh, hello. Oh, another blind Altara woman.
Look at the what do you call those things? She has like those. What are they, like studs?
Yeah, those are like the like armored studs or whatever, that are poking out. Like she's got a helmet on, and she's got these studs that like protruded. And of course, the Altara women don't have any. They can't see, so they're usually their eyes are obscured. But yeah, this woman's got like these studded armored this armored like shoulder pad. It looks like something from the Road Warrior. She's. I don't know why she's got one like directly over the nipple area, but I guess that's important.
she's got pointers, dude.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, it's cold in Canada. I guess.
Talk about nipples so big they'll poke your eyes out. Like, what is going on there?
And she's wielding like this big, crazy, like wide sword, and she just looks like she's ready just to whoop some ass, And yeah, man. Just like that's one thing that is really, really sort of evocative about the older Rifts books is just the art. Oh, dude, check out page 91. This is the one that I'm interested in. Southwestern Canada, eh? And look at that little Native American honey that's right there next to the big robot horse.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Old Western style. Dude's on a full-on like robot horse with a Native American woman with a bow on her back. That's pretty cool too. Yeah.
No, that's something I would really think that would be. Yeah, it even starts to break down like some of the New West sort of things because I guess because what is Alberta is essentially the west of Canada, like the cowboy land of Canada. I would say that's where all the cowboys live, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's essentially like cold Texas.
Well, you got there's a notorious gang of bandits and killers who have been terrorizing the countryside in one incarnation or another for 200 years, it says. The Calgary Highlanders. So you got like a motorcycle group, dude, that's roaming Calgary. How awesome is that?
It's pretty awesome. What I got a kick out of, too, is if you flip over to 93, you start seeing some of the exotic life that's hanging out here in southwestern Canada. And this is going to be like kind of near and dear to our hearts because this is what's left of the Pacific Northwest, since there's not a Pacific Northwest. So I'm going to glom on to what's going on over here. And like the Devil Unicorn. What is a Devil Unicorn, Gary? It came out of the Calgary Rift. I don't have any idea, but it's a Devil Unicorn, man.
Mm-hmm. I'm just imagining that it's doing evil, unlawful things with its horn.
and also, too, you got to watch out for the duck-billed honker.
Yeah, what is that? Is that a
the
duck?
Duck-billed, I guess it's what is tiny herds can be found in British Columbia, Alberta, but only in I guess it's like a little duck. It's exotic. I would imagine a duck-billed honker. I would imagine it looks like a duck, but it probably is something kind of like, I don't know.
I got one of these. Great American Dream Snake.
Yeah. I bet you do.
Okay, moving on.
The fact that what blows my mind about Rifts, man, is the fact you can have freaking dinosaurs in this game, man. Nothing's to like, nobody's gonna say, really, you're gonna ride a dinosaur? All right, I'm out. You got a dinosaur in this game? I'm out. No, please bring your dinosaur into this game. We want to feed it.
This on page 101. Now, this seems like a contradiction. Everybody says that British Columbia is wiped off the map, but on page 101, here we go, man. Remains something of a mystery to much of the civilized world. The demon-occupied Rocky Mountains make it extremely difficult to gain access to the region from the east. Going up and around means going up hundreds, if not thousands of miles out of one's way to traversing the tundra. So what is known of British Columbia is that it's a hilly and mountainous region with an abundance of lakes and rivers, once used to harness hydroelectricity. So there's like a whole section in here on an area that's not even supposed to, that's supposed to have been washed into the sea. Right. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I guess what it is maybe like some of the little outcropping areas might have been washed out. But maybe, and that's something that I thought it was gone, but maybe it's just like hard to get to. And it's just sort of like this foggy sort of, like difficult area to reach.
Man, there's a lot of stuff in Canada that I read the first quite a few pages of this, but right. Cyber Horsemen of Izon? Where's this? Somewhere in the wilderness of British Columbia. Come on, now there's stuff in BC, man. I want to be a Cyber Horseman.
Dude, and look at this right here. They have a Centaur. You have the option, optional player character NPC, the Centaur RCC, which is the RCC that was the old way to, what they used to call like a Mars class or whatever. That's your occupation. But man, you can totally be a Centaur in this.
Oh yeah, snap! I see what you're saying. Optional player character, villain, and NPC. Check out page 104. There's a robotic body horseman guy.
Look at that guy.
He's like,
that guy's awesome.
He's got some weird like spear arm that's going right through the back of that person's neck. And then look behind
another dude. Get ready to grab another guy and throw him, and he's like reared back on his horse legs, and he's kicking ass.
Oh, that is so cool. And
the guys that are running from him look like they need to be running from him. And that's exactly how you do it. Cyber Horseman of Zion or whatever, Zion.
Bionics of the Cyber Horseman. There's Headhunters here as well. So is this another Headhunter OCCs? Yep. What is this?
OCC, yeah, these are all occupational classes and everything. So, wow. So yeah, this is where the Headhunters kind of come in. This is where you can, from the Headhunters from the Mars iconic frameworks. Yeah, this is where you can start. This is where they start like delving into these a little bit more. But man, you got the Headhunter Techno Warrior. You got so now that's amazing that they just decided to break into throw in a bunch of these OCCs as they call them, which are for all intents and purposes they're classes or iconic frameworks, is to use Savage Worlds parlance. Mm-hmm. But man, you get Headhunter anti-robot special. I'll tell you what, man, they did not skimp on this book, man. They were like, okay, we're gonna lay out Canada for you, and then we're gonna start laying out like these are the people who come to play in Canada.
Look at the stuff in 126 with all the bionics. You get like silver-plated blades, finger blasters, hydraulic stake drivers.
Man, I like that hydraulic stake driver, but man, that's pretty slick though to have like silver-plated blades. Just to, like these little knuckle spikes that come out. And it's like, vampire, plop, or werewolf, plop. But yeah, the TW, the Techno Wizard hydraulic stake driver, that thing looks nasty.
So I guess that's used for like driving wooden stakes. You fire it out into vampires' hearts.
Yep, and if that doesn't work, then you got the TW Sunbeam Blaster. No. This could be a finger laser, forearm weapon, or eye blaster. That's all I need, man. Just put one right in my eye. Just put me sunlight. Eyeballing vampires to death.
Oh, sweet. And then 130's DBs, the Arden Tech.
Oh, nice. Look at that crazy dude. Yeah, Arden Tech. Yeah, look at that guy. Arden Tech. Oh, see, it's nice enough to give you pronunciation. Right next to it. So Arden Tech. Yeah,
they got the Grackletooth Rogue Dog Packs, the Griot Hunter. So they're like a lizard man looking thing. Mastodontoid.
Yep, the Grackletooths are cool, man. They just look at them. They just look like big happy lizards to me.
Hey, look at the Mastodontoid. The Mastodontoid is like an elephant man. He's got like an elephant snout with a tooth on it.
Oh, on 136, that guy is crazy looking.
Yeah, sweet. So yeah, optional character classes. Then we got Monsters of the North. So we were talking about this today. with Matt, and Matt brought up rifts just being like a land of dimensional portals in and out and stuff like that. But yeah, it's like not like that at all. The entire world, you just basically play inside of North America. Now, this is something I wanted to ask you. Like you said in one of your campaigns that you sent people through a rift, but that's not really a thing that gets done inside of rifts. It's essentially things come here.
Right. And the whole reason I did that too was just because they wanted to go through a rift. They, the players were just asking me like, "What's going to happen if we go through a rift?" And I started thinking about that, and I kind of devised, I kind of wrote something into the campaign. And this was all spun out of what they did in Garnet Town Gambit. Because after Garnet Town Gambit, they wanted to keep playing, and I'm like, all right, so I'm going to write the adventure based on what you guys did, and so what they ended up doing is they ended up capturing Simon, but Simon got away, and all this other stuff happened, and the little boy from the mayor's kid died and everything like that. And if there's a kid in the game, I'm going to kill him. I'm just going to tell you right now.
Oh, wow.
No, yeah, I don't have any he's going to be put. I'm not going to necessarily kill him. I don't kill anybody. But the situation, if they don't rescue somebody in time, that's on them. But they just wanted to go see what it was like in another rift, and so I essentially sent them over into the land of the Fairland, which, in one adventure there's stuff where I talk about them, where these are essentially like the elves of rifts in some variation. And so that's what they ended up doing, and we ended up summoning the big, and this was just mainly an excuse for me to summon the big gigantic raging monster. The template, if you look in the back of Savage Foes of North America, they have a template called the giant raging monster, which is supposed to be like a 100-foot tall monster or whatever. I just wanted an excuse to unleash that on my players, man. That's all it was. So I just wanted to bring that sucker out.
You've got the Noli Bushmen, which kind of look like Doreen from 50 Fathoms. They look like this webbed hand kind of gecko-looking dude that can run around. Mm-hmm. The Yino, I don't even know how to explain this guy. He sort of looks like your typical gray alien kind of a thing. And then page 140, man, we start getting into monsters for you to fight. You've got this armored slayer, which looks like this gigantic sort of Tyrannosaurus Rex with octopus tentacles and huge hands, but the thing looks mountainous, man. It looks massive.
Yep.
Armored shell and stuff. And then you've got bears, wolves, the Cadborosaurus, which is some kind of like lake monster. I would say almost like Ogopogo. Fairy bots, which are like little robots that fly around. Some fury beetles. Here's another massive freaking creature. Holy jeez.
If you look on page 153, it shows you a fury beetle in all its glory. I think they're cool, man. I've always liked them. Man, you get giant squid, and I know what in other places you call those krakens. So I guess that's what you call them here. Oh man, if you flip the page, you get to see one of your favorite people, man, the Loup Garou, which is the classic werewolf.
Yeah, nice.
So that's why you need your spiked knuckles so you can punch old Loopy in the face.
Ogopogo, that's in Lake Okanagan, man, South Central British Columbia. Why do people keep telling me there's nothing left of BC, but I keep seeing stuff about BC, man? Ogopogo's here.
Dude, they're lying to you, man. They were like, "Oh, you don't want to get into this. You don't want to." No, man. Don't read Rich Canada. Like British Columbia is blown up because they know they put this in your hands, man, and it's going to be a dangerous item, man. They know that if you have this knowledge, it's going to be Rift Canada galore. That's why people are keeping you away from this.
Right? Spirit Sasquatch and the true Sasquatch. You got Sasquatch.
Have you seen these guys?
Sasquatch. Yeah, I see them all the time, man. I don't know if you know this or not, but I think the Sasquatch was like the Labatt's guy for the longest time. So there would be like the Sasquatch would come skiing down the mountainside on his like snowboard, and then he'd like rip up and kick all this snow up, and he'd have like a case of beer under each arm.
Hell yeah. But no, if you take a look at the picture, like the Spirit Sasquatch looks like he looks like he came from Planet of the Apes. He's got like a vest on, and he's got like a weapon or whatever. He looks like very noble and upright. But then when you flip the page of the true Sasquatch, that's when you see your boy right over there. That's when you see old Squatchy.
He's the regular guy, which is pretty neat. So yeah, there's a couple of different ones of those. Then you've got dinosaurs, man. You've got like all sorts of dinosaurs in New West and Southern Canada. Again, it's just primarily BC, Alberta. I feel like all of a sudden I got ripped off.
I think you did, dude, man. Like, just look at all the stuff that, like, other monsters known to run to Canada, that roam through Canada, all these demon spirits and shamans. hold on, crap. There is a OCC, which we've determined that is a class called the Worldly Sasquatch, where this is a Sasquatch that travels around the world like, hey, how's it going? I'm not going to hang out here in BC anymore. I'm going to go see what it's like in Kansas. But yeah, these are like these are Sasquatches that you can play as a friggin' Sasquatch, and they have psionics, Gary.
You can be what?
Yeah, that's what it is. You can be a worldly Sasquatch with psionic powers. Dude, that's all you said. That's all you had to say, man. It's like, can I be a Sasquatch? Yes, you can.
Wow.
Demon bear. Then I start flipping into like the other demon spirits, shamans, and magic, and it starts going through demon bear. And this demon bear is scary as hell, man.
Yeah. So
demons.
Look at the cannibal woman, Sanaqua. She's got little kids, man. There you go. There's little kids in cages behind her.
Are going to be juicy little delicious kids.
Russian demon, Sedna the sea hag. So what are these things? These are the Sedna the sea hag is the Inuit mistress of the sea. And there's an old legend about her where she was like this beautiful woman or something like that, and ended up, because she was so beautiful, like the gods ended up spiting her and turning her into this old nasty nasty hag, and she hangs out with the she hangs out with the fish and the other stuff. But yeah, she used to be, case where she used to be hot, but then pissed somebody off, and now she's ugly and mad. So would you go to these? Oh, I see. They're NPC monsters, but you could go to these people and like make a deal with them for something, or that's sort of what they're here for.
Yeah, in fact, Sedna she's pretty much like considered like a godlike spirit. So if you don't make her mad, maybe that you can get some sort of boon or something like that with her or something. I don't know. That's
cool.
And
man.
then they got the Wendigos.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then oh crap! I almost said a bad word. I flipped the page, and I found out what a wish poosh is. You know what? Shall I tell you what a wish poosh is? It's a demon beaver. Wish poosh.
That's the sound that it makes, doesn't it? Wish poosh.
Yeah, it does. Wish poosh. Yeah, that's exactly. If you hear that creep around, you need to get, because it's worse than a honey badger.
You need to run like hell.
Dude, just sitting there reading Wish Poosh, the Demon Beaver NPC monster. That's the name of my next band. That's the hell of a title right there. That's
okay.
incredible.
We need to move on, because I have so many weird things running through my head right now that just have to deal with, like, oh man. So then you've got shaman. Now OCC is a class again.
Yeah. The OCCs and RCCs, those are what they call, those are occupations and whatnot. So these are essentially what they're doling out here. These are classes that you can end up taking. So the Ngakok shaman, the occupational character class, is inspired by Inuit myths. So you can essentially be an Inuit shaman if you want to. That's cool as hell, man.
Yeah, that is pretty sweet. I'd like to play. I really enjoyed playing the shaman class from Deadlands. So. Mm-hmm. Port that over through Mars or something like that. Oh, look, now you got all the bikes and stuff. You got equipment in the last section of the book. Excuse me.
Look at all this stuff.
Body armor, thermal body armor, energy weapons, heavy laser turrets.
My eyes always gravitate towards the hover cycles, man, because I'm just hoping that I get to see in my lifetime such a thing as a hover cycle. I probably won't. But just to dream, man, just to be able to see like some big old fat guy in like a little leather vest or whatever, riding like a chopped up Harley cycle or whatever, going through Wendy's getting a burger. That's what I want to see. Hey, man.
Yeah, he's getting some kind of like T-Rex burger. He's getting some demon beaver wish poosh chili. You got snowmobiles, Arctic hover cycles. Flying weapons platforms, Arctic tanks. This is sweet, man.
Oh, and if you flip over to one of the last pages, because by and large these are all in black and white. You flip over to the other Rift's world books, man. It shows a picture of the friggin' Splugorth and those blind Altara women, man.
Where's this?
And that's
at?
one of my favorite. If you, yep, 194.
I found it. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And what's amazing too is I forgot about this because this reminds me of like the old the Rifts or the GURPS books rather. But you flip to the back of the page and it has the Palladium's books checklist in order form. You can order them right there from send it to the PO box right there in Westland, Michigan, where Simbita kicks it, and you can just go ahead and click this. I want this one and this one and this one.
Look at all the books he's got, man. This is insane. Wow.
It is. And you know, a lot of these, and if you think about it, the fact that I mean, because he's not selling PDFs, these are books that he's selling. For $6, you know, you can get a Coalition Dog Boy, or these are the miniatures that he's selling too. So you can get like some. I forget that you can get that he was selling minis directly, but the books weren't too terribly expensive.
Wow.
Or maybe they were. I don't know. But the minis were pretty cheap back in 20 years ago.
Wow. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for Rifts Canada. Fury Beetle armor, dude. I like the idea that you can take one of these things out and then grab its stuff and make your own armor out of it. That is friggin' top notch.
And it's like heavy duty. It's like mega damage capable armor too. So it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be a one and done situation either. Fury Beetle's built to last.
Wow, that is super cool. I'm super impressed. Rifts Canada just, shone a new light on wanting to make me play some friggin' some Savage Worlds Rifts in Canada, dude. You come into Abbotsford. Let's go down to Nerd Haven inside Rifts. We'll do it online so that you don't actually have to fly all the way up here. But let's go sit down in my old blowed up local gaming store, right?
That sounds good to me. I'll FaceTime. You put me on Skype, man. I'll do it that way.
That's nice. All right, into the fray.
Whoa, bloody hell. Oh man, I love this guy. Do we have to go yet? Yes. Oh, please. Of course we do. We've got work to do. Please, can we stay just a little bit longer? Stop it, Jeffrey. Right, come on back through the rift there. Fine. Can you hear?
Well, the sweet sound of that rift opening up means it's time to pack up, portal out. Take us out with some fresh contact info, vivacious Uncle JR.
You can reach us at the murderhoboshow@gmail.com or get us on Twitter at murderhoboshow. We've officially moved to Mewe. Google Plus is no longer a thing, so you can't find anything over there now. So if you want to come talk to me or talk to Gary, you can always hit us up on the Mewe. You can find us at Nerds International, and also you can find us at the Murder Hobo Show on Mewe. Mm-hmm. And that's where you can you go to Nerds International, you'll see me going on there arguing with Jamie Pearson on pretty frequently, and you can also just come in there and come talk to us. If you want to know more about Rifts, or you want to just know more about more what I'm wearing, just come hit me up.
Come and check you out. We're going to post some sexy, fully clothed pictures.
If the demand is up there for it, I want to give the people what they want, Gary.
Right. Oh man, be sure to check out the Murder Hobo Show on Podbean and check out the show notes for some cool links, creative people, places, things, stuff, thises and that's.
No, that's awesome. But what's even more awesome is when you check out you and Victor's other podcast, Threats, Treats, and Timers, where you talk about ICRPG, the index card role-playing game.
Yes, there's a bunch of new stuff coming out with Vigilante City that is right up your superhero's butthole.
It sure is, man. I mean, you talk about you want to play a setting that reminds you of the old cartoons from the 90s, like Batman, the animated series, the X-Men animated series, Spider-Man, the animated series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, those great cartoons from the 90s. Check out Vigilante City, because Eric Bloat is bringing it. And also, too, in fact, Hank's got the whole conversion for ICRPG, doesn't he? He's actually doing it himself, isn't he?
He does, yeah. That's why I went into the original Vigilante Cities that came out by Eric Bloat from Bloat Games. I backed it. I think it only cost me like $80, but it came with it's like a D20 system that he's got. There's some saving throws, some cool things. Like you just get but man, it came with dice. It came with a T-shirt. It came with the books. It came with stickers. It came with all sorts of stuff, and it's in a really nice corrugated box that is laminated and orange, and it looks frickin' sweet. But the main reason that I backed it was for the ICRPG conversion. And man, that did not disappoint. You can play some superheroes ICRPG style, which is super freaking sweet. And we're going to get around to doing that, because supers is your thing, even though ICRPG isn't. But
no, that doesn't mean that. Shoot, as soon as I check out a system in super, as soon as I check out the way it does supers, man, that's always a good way to change my mind. And I'm one of the few guys, man, that actually does not dismiss ICRPG. I actually enjoyed it the few times that I played it with you. Of course, you're the only guy that I played it with, so I really, maybe it's done a whole lot different somewhere else.
It's pretty sweet when you're a priest and you get to grow 5 times your size and lay down 5 times the damage.
And you just smack people clear across the room. I'm telling you, that was one of the highlights of my my ICRPG career.
Hey, when's the last time you killed somebody with your foreskin from underneath your robe?
It's been a while, if ever.
It was just last night for me. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next time. We're going to have another action-packed show. We're going to be tackling... what are we going to do next time? I think we should talk... well, who knows? You'll have to tune in and see, because we don't even know when there's going to be a next episode. We give this shit away for free. Know what I mean?
I do.
All right. Peace out, Uncle Jay.
Peace out to you, Gary.
The Murder Hobo Show is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Murder Hobo Show, copyright 2019. All rights reserved.